Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Hi, good evening again. My name is Jay. I am the host of Real Men, Real Talk Live. I'd like to welcome into the studio this evening. We have Josh Richard coming in from Southern California. And of course, we have Jeff Fasano joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. Evis Love Heath is taking a much needed night off to celebrate an engagement, a family engagement. He's in Melbourne this evening celebrating, supporting his sister's some type of dance event. And so he had all intentions of joining us this evening, but unfortunately he was not able to get some type of stable Wi-Fi connection. So I guess the universe is letting him know that he's right where he's supposed to be, and it's not with us men tonight. So it's the three of us. It's the three of us that's going to hold down Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
This is the first time we're doing it without Evis and his energy.
Yeah, this is episode 57, and it's the first time. I think we've all missed one. I know I was remote one show, and I could only barely manage the production side of the show, but I was not live for most of the show. And I think, Jeff, you may have taken a couple of nights off, maybe one.
Yeah.
And Josh, we've had a few as well. So here we are tonight. Another week is come and gone. We are a Friday evening in the U.S. of A. I'd like to welcome our viewers this evening. If you should hear something that you like or love, we'd love for you to tap your love button on your monitor and light us up. If you should have any questions or comments, please drop them into the comment section, and we'll do our best to flag them down and address and acknowledge as many of them as we can. We'd also love to know, as a viewer, what city, state, or country you are joining us from tonight. And if you are new to the program, welcome home. And so without further ado, guys, Josh, it looks like you got yourself a beautiful new piece of artwork hanging in your new home now tonight. Tell us about that piece of artwork. I think that you, it's your story. Why don't you share who painted that for you, and what's the story behind that?
I did some self-care this week, and I hadn't painted and created with my hands, and you all know how important that is for me. And I just moved into this new space, and I had that big canvas back there for about 10 years. I've been carrying that to my storage units, and I finally painted over what was on it previously. And so this is the coast of Malibu, one of my favorite places to go and drive and clear my head and be near the ocean. And so I wanted that inspiration in my place with a beautiful sunset and the water. So that's about a 4-foot by 8-foot canvas. It's huge. And so I had drop cloth here in the kitchen, and I spent last weekend painting that and another canvas in the bedroom. But it makes me smile every day. And it's, even those smallest things are super important.
Beautiful. So how was it for you in the moment, getting back into the creative, using your hands and the inspiration behind the actual piece of artwork? How was it getting your hands dirty?
I loved it. I missed it so much. I miss building. I miss making furniture. So I had paint all over me, and it was great. I loved it. But it's inspired by another artist online, and then I put my own spin on it. But I saw his artwork, and I thought, wow, that's really pretty.
Beautiful. How long until you're back on set for Shark Tank? How many more weeks you got off, Josh?
Oh, we're pushing back a little bit. I'll start pre-production in about a month, and then we'll start shooting early July. So, but it's coming up. This year has flown by, I swear.
Yeah.
They seem to pick up speed.
And Jeff Fasano, we in our production meeting earlier this week, you shared with us that you're actually going to be making a trip pretty soon to Southern California. And of course, that's home for Josh. Now, the two of you have never met physically face to face. You have not touched heart to heart, soul to soul. And so I believe the two of you are definitely planning to rendezvous, maybe even come live together. Who knows, on that Friday evening when you're in town. But if we have a chance to make it, we may drive in from Sedona, Arizona, to meet up, and the three of us at least will be together. That'll leave Evis, the Lone Ranger, coming in from New South Wales, Australia. But at least the three of us will definitely get together and break some bread and have some fun.
Go to Cafe Gratitude and have a nice vegan meal in Venice Beach.
There you go. Totally. I don't know if I've been to the one in Venice. I know I've been to the original one that I went to is, I think, at Newport Beach. I've been there a few times, and somewhere in LA. But yeah, it's a pretty cool concept they got going there. But in any event, welcome to the show. As we wait for more of our viewers to jump on board. A couple of shout outs. I want to shout out to a couple of our viewers. Deb, who's taken a much needed rest from social media. Reached out to her this evening, and she's doing well. But just a shout out to her with whatever she's got going on in her life. Today, we hold space for you. We love you. We respect you. We honor you, and we hope to see you back on social media real soon. Also, shout out to Carrie Crary. Hope that you are recovering as you navigated the past week out of Cancun. Hope for cancer. Hope your treatments are going well and you're enjoying your beautiful time with your daughter coming in from overseas to spend time with you this month. And of course, I want to wish Kay. Kay is the number one generation in her family. We have Kay Bench, we have Katrina Bench, and we have her brother Frankie Bench. Are all viewers and fans and listeners of Real Men Real Talk Live. Kay spent a couple of days recovering in a hospital from a small fall that created a painful injury. But she's home now. She's resting. And Kay, a speedy recovery to you, and know that so much of recovery comes from a mindset. And if we think positive thoughts, our body will respond and heal so much quicker. And do some extra self-care, whatever that looks like for you. You know, I don't need to tell you what that needs to be because you are, I believe you're my senior, so I know you've got some wisdom on self-care. But welcome back to Real Men Real Talk, and welcome home. And lastly, Bronnie Fisher, who I have not talked to, but I caught a feed that she had some slight surgery on her heart. Earlier this week, I reached out to her as well just a couple of days ago because I realized she hadn't been on social media. And she's also been going through some things, but she is here tonight. She says, hi, all, recuperating after minor heart surgery. Glad to be coming in from Australia. Bronnie Fisher, welcome home. Welcome back. And so glad that you made it through whatever procedure you needed to have done. We love you. And if anyone else has anyone in their life that could use an acknowledgement, a prayer, holding space for speedy recovery, we're here for you. Feel free to drop it down in the comments. But beyond that, gentlemen, tonight, it feels different. You know, Josh, when you were out a couple of times earlier in the month, in April, it felt like there was a hole in the program. There was a missing link, something missing, very powerful. And that was you. And I feel the same way in this moment, you know, when one of us is not here in the show, it just feels, it feels different. You know, it feels, we miss you. And and it's the same thing when our viewers are not able to join us, we miss you too. And with that, tonight's topic is one that Jeff Fasano, it was your idea, Jeff, came up in a production meeting. We threw around a couple of ideas. Tonight's topic is all about, what are you focusing on? In other words, are you focusing on what is going on in your life, what you have now, or are you focusing on what you don't have? And so, Jeff, I'm going to invite you, since this is this was a topic that came through for you in our production meeting in our group connection on Tuesday. I'm going to invite you to warm us up and get this show kicked off tonight. Welcome to Real Men Real Talk Live.
Actually, I'm going to try my best Evis imitation.
All right.
There's no way I can do that. Yeah, this subject popped up. It's something that it's a tool actually that I use for myself when I start to maybe move into a shadow period or a downward spiral into a place of nothingness or something like that. Josh has his wonderful tool of looking at what you're grateful for. And what popped into my head, because I've been going through this lately, is asking yourself the question, am I continually looking at what isn't in my life or celebrating what is in my life? And it really comes down to abundance, defining abundance for ourselves. In my life, in my career as a photographer, I've done a lot of amazing things, but I've realized recently that when I did these wonderful things, being on Broadway for 6 months and some amazing photo shoots with a lot of just amazing artists and actors and people, when I look back at it, I asked myself, I said, was I really celebrating the moment of being in the moment of doing that, in the abundance of it, sinking into the amazingness of it? Or was I always looking ahead to the next gig? Really letting go of the moment and celebration of what I accomplished up until that point in my life and working on something or a project or a show or a photo shoot on something that I always dreamed about and left the corporate world to do. And I used to get caught up in, okay, I've done this. I've done this shoot. I've done this half-day shoot, this full-day shoot. I've worked on this project for 3 days. And then I'd come home and then I'd immediately go to my emails and start looking at where's the next shoot? What's coming up next? What's coming up next? As opposed to celebrating what is in my life in the moment, what I've accomplished up into the moment in time, celebrating that photo shoot, the exchange of energy, all of the wonderful people on the photo shoot that I've done. And I felt myself negating all of that by looking at what isn't in my life. Look at some sort of illusion of emptiness that really is not there. Because if we look at what is in our life, we are coming from a place of abundance in the moment. And I've been, last couple of weeks, couple of months of my life, I've been doing this. And I needed to catch myself, which is why I came up Tuesday night. It's like, what is in my life? What have I done? What have I accomplished in my life up until now? Take stock in my life and look at it. Or am I continually focused on what isn't? This illusion of emptiness in my life, and then trying to fill it up from outside of myself to get another photo shoot, to do this, to do that, constantly needing to do something, to get something outside of myself, to fill up some illusion of emptiness inside of me, which is simply wounding, or just stepping back and looking at what is in my life. Who is in my life? What have I accomplished up until now? And then looking at that fullness within me, or the fulfillment of it within me. And then we're coming from a place of abundance and not seeking outside of ourselves to fill some sort of illusion of emptiness within us.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's what it's about. Absolutely, Jeff, 100%.
Josh, how much can you relate to what Jeff just shared?
I think you just wrote my bio. Goodness. I was the poster child for running on the treadmill and seeking more. And I think, part of that is my bipolar. It's really hard for me to slow down, to stop and enjoy. It's really easy for me to get caught in projects and want to keep going. And so balance has been extremely tough in my life. And in my earlier years, when I was when my internal dialogue, my internal narratives were very negative, what that led to was very little compassion for myself when I had failures or bobbles. And it was this pressure to keep striving for more and and that was all that I read. I read articles about CEOs, and I, read books on how to be better and how to be, create company cultures. And I looked up new Teslas and that was it. I was always looking for more and always striving for more in that picture of success that I thought I needed to achieve to be okay, to be enough. And so what happened was my entire 30s were that, and I missed my 30s completely. Mm-hmm. I skipped get-togethers with friends. I skipped trips. I stayed home. I sat at my computer. I worked late. I've done way more in the first 4 years of my 40s right now than I ever did my entire decade of my 30s. And I've lived more in these last few years, and I've traveled more, and I've seen more, and I've experienced more, and I've appreciated. I think that's the biggest thing, Jeff. You were absolutely right, is that deep appreciation for what we have now and on what is right here with us in this moment, not what we're striving for. And so, yeah, Jay, I was so deep in it that I had no clue. Absolutely none.
Yeah. Well, I want to take a moment here to just thank the two of you for being honest and sharing part of your truth, and so I'm going to break it down from my perspective. I spent also in my corporate career always chasing the next win. But part of the win was the adrenaline, the hit that I got from every time I had success. But what I didn't do was take the time to celebrate each, let's say, accomplishment. When I say celebrate, less from the ego space and more from the acknowledgement space of what I had achieved. And it wasn't until I was probably 20 years in, and the light finally went on. And I realized, I literally would close a deal, and instead of taking even 1 minute to acknowledge it, to honor it, to look at how did I grow? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about other people? I didn't ask any questions. I didn't explore, I didn't honor, I didn't acknowledge the success of what I had achieved. I literally went and buried it less than 5 seconds later, and my mind went right to what's the next person I got to call? Who's the next prospect I need to close the deal? And I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I didn't know that.
Now I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for you, Jay. Is it because I'm curious about this because I was the same too, but did you not celebrate because you didn't think you deserved it? Or is it because you were so focused in the future that the next step was what consumed your thoughts?
It's a brilliant question, Josh Richer. I think it's a combination of a few things. it's not that I didn't deserve it. I think it's more of, I was so hooked on the adrenaline of the deal, the art of the deal and closing it. Number one, I was sleepwalking in my career and through my life. I didn't realize that I was doing me a disservice by that. The other thing was it's more about also, I was always in fight or flight. Even in a successful career, my fight or flight was, I was always fearful that, what if this is the last deal?
Mm-hmm.
I was more afraid that if I didn't stay focused on closing that next big deal, I may lose it. And if I lose it, then where's my self-worth?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't live in a world of trust. I didn't trust me. So how could I trust a prospect that they were going to be there and want to do business with me? Mm-hmm. So I always felt like if I took a day off, that was a day off that a competitor can get in there and steal the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, that's the reality. That's how, I'm not alone. I know millions of men and women show up the same way I showed up in my life. And I think it also transferred over into my personal life as well. I couldn't take the time to enjoy that moment. So I may have shared with you guys, I don't recall if I shared it on the show or not, but it was just last month or so that I climbed the highest mountain peak of my life. And I was less than maybe 30 minutes from the highest peak. And the thought came through my mind, do I think I'm going to do this again? Will I want to do this very dangerous, very challenging hike again? It was a primitive free solo hike. And I stopped myself in that moment and I said, stop it. Just stop it, Jay. Don't go there. Because if you go there, then you're not going to be here. And I want to be present for the rest of the time until I reach the peak, right? And so I was able to catch myself in that, I want to call it an unhealthy thought, because it was going to take me out of the present. And I was able to come back to the moment. Now we reached the peak. This is Mary and I, we get to the top, and less than 3 minutes, we're resting. We're at the top, and we're just in awe of the views and what we've accomplished. And she says to me, so what do you think? Do you think we're going to want to do this again? She asked the same question I had asked myself less than 30 minutes earlier. And I said to her the same answer, first of all, I don't know. And I don't want to even begin to deep dive into what I'm feeling, other than I want to just honor this moment, this accomplishment. I don't need to know that now. I don't want to even go there. But I'm sure that in the future I will know. And we both honored that. And I said, let's just enjoy. Let's just take this moment in. And it wasn't until last week that it came up for me. It wasn't because I was in deep thought, but it just came back to me. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to do that hike again, but not right away. I want to do the highest mountain in Sedona. But I do want to come back and do it a second time because I want to have a different experience with it. Because every time it's like going to a movie. We see a movie each time. We see things the second and the third time that we missed in the first and second time.
Totally.
If we are paying attention. Right?
Or a great book. Yeah.
So I think I answered your question the long way. I took the long way home, Josh. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was fear of failure that I didn't have time to celebrate or acknowledge, because if I did, I may miss the next deal.
Well, and then Jay, you brought up too that you sort of had imposter syndrome as well in that job, that sales job, when you first started that you didn't feel like you belonged there and you felt like you weren't good enough to be there. So how did that play into your overworking as well?
Well, that's interesting. That the imposter syndrome that you just referring to is when I was in senior management in a company. But the truth is, it was always there. Even the 22 years before I got that role, even just on the sales side, it was always there. And for those that don't understand what the imposter syndrome is, Josh, why don't you just take a moment here just to give us the high level, your understanding of what it means.
I had a great friend who did a big talk on it, and that was my first exposure to it, and it clicked with me hugely because imposter syndrome basically is that you you don't feel like you've either earned or you belong in a position or a place in life, and you're deathly afraid that everyone's going to find out. And so you're in this constant state of fear and panic, and you're terrified that those around you are going to discover the liar that you are, that you actually haven't earned this or haven't, you don't belong, and you are in fact, you're not enough. And I don't know, did I describe it well enough? That's my understanding of it, at least.
Yeah, it's not regarding or honoring and valuing ourselves, our talents, gifts, and abilities, ourselves enough. We do what we do. People say we do it well. We don't, it's not a knowingness, a deep knowingness in our heart that we are really good at what we're doing. We are talented, we are gifted. And we're always thinking, yeah, they're going to find out that I just been faking it for a while. what we're really frightened of is our not good enough or our not perfect enough being exposed. That's really what it's all about. I'm not good. Yeah. I'm feeling not good enough. I'm feeling not perfect enough. Somebody's going to find that out. Yeah. Underneath the surface. That's what we're all, thinking about and fighting within ourselves.
Definitely afraid of. Yeah.
Jeff, let me ask you this. In your career, well, you've had two careers. One was on Wall Street and one is I refer to as a entertainment celebrity photographer. Have you overcome that, or are you still challenged with that at times?
I think for every artist, where we live on that edge of like I could sit and look at my body of work. Sometimes I go, wow, I did that. I worked with those people. My mentor, Mario Cabrera, years and years and years ago, when I would just blow through my portfolio, he said, will you just stop and look at your work? Because I couldn't take it in. Sometimes I couldn't even look at it and go, I did that. And what's really so good about that? Because it's not that good. It's got to be better and better and better. There's a thing about working at your craft and always wanting to improve as an artist and reinvent yourself as growth, which is healthy. I'm a better photographer than I was a year ago, but I still have that part in me that I need to really sit down with and look at it and go, wow, because it's really at where I'm at 20 plus years doing it. I got to go back and look at what I've accomplished up into this moment in time. And that's why I brought it up Tuesday night, guys, because I'm in it. It's like there are times that I look at what I haven't done yet, what isn't in my life.
Yeah.
And it takes me away from really focusing on what I've accomplished, but beginning to embody that I am very talented and good at what I'm doing, and why all of what has happened for me. It's a challenge.
Thank you for telling on yourself and being vulnerable in this moment. That's what makes us real men this evening. Jolene says, welcome, Jolene. I think coming in from Washington State, she says, I am learning to value myself without anything outside of me to validate my worth. Jolene, I'm going to invite you to share, drop it in the comments if you may. One tool that is helping you learn how to value yourself without anything outside of you to validate your worth. What does that look like for you? And I'm going to challenge both of you guys as we progress in our show this evening in our episode to really do some share some tools. Also, I want to acknowledge Sherry Olson, who says she too has done that in her entire career of selling real estate. She says right here, where'd she go? I had her, I lost her. Okay. She says, I have had that syndrome my whole 20-year real estate career. So I really do believe that it's very common. And all that it really is it's an indication. It's just a symptom or an indication that there's still a shadow around some wounding from our earlier years of our self-worth, a lower or self-esteem that is not at the level where we have a high enough confidence in ourselves to know that we are not only good enough, but that we are freaking brilliant at what we do, whatever it is. Last night, we went to a dinner. We were invited in the local community to meet a bunch of other couples. And Mary brought a couple of homemade desserts. That's her thing. She's a baker. And, she got her desserts were off the charts last night. One of them, the caramel apple pear tart was just amazing. Incredible. And that she got a lot of acknowledgement. And even she had to really practice just like saying, thank you, and not downplaying it in some way. And it's just, we all have been there, or we all are still kind of walking through the process of learning how to love and accept ourselves right where we're at and know that we're brilliant and we're good enough and we're perfect right where we're at.
Doesn't it?
It's this messed up cycle. It's you just reminded me of something. Sorry, Jeff.
Hold on, Jeff. What popped into my head is learning how to receive love.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too, is like we spend all this time killing ourselves to prove ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And then when we finally get some appreciation or outside sort of encouragement, we deflect. And it's this never-ending cycle of killing ourselves and then not taking in any of the joy.
Yeah. Yep. It's I get it. I'm telling you, it's
my
like
whole 30s doing that.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, I look back at, like I said earlier, I look back at things that I've done, and I knew and know now that I was not in the moment to receive it, be in it, appreciate it, enjoy it. And I look back now and go, wow, I so many things, so many even opportunities that I had passed up in my life because of my not good enough being so much stronger, and that wounding being so much stronger. So it's a challenge, and it's still a challenge for me to slowly learning to open that heart to a greater extent now, more deeper, to really receive the love. I was never, no matter what I did when I was growing up, I was never chastised or told me I wasn't good enough. I never got the affirmation when I played baseball and I went 3 for 3. I never heard, "Wow, good game, Jeff." I never got that positive reinforcement, affirmation from my parents because they didn't know how to do it. So for me, it was always a constant cycle of needing to prove myself, everything that I need to do, every photo shoot, and then even coming back and picking it all apart, looking at for where I screwed up, what I didn't do well. It wasn't, is there anything good here? Which was a cycle because I never received the positive affirmation of, wow, good game. You played a really good game. That was, or anything, that positive affirmation that we did. There was never any, oh, you screwed up. And there was never any, oh, great game. There was just absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Jeff, what you just shared is beautiful because it ties into what I touched on just a few minutes ago, which is as the adult, we're still waiting for someone in our life, whether it be a boss and a customer, a parent, if they're still alive, a sibling, a friend, somebody, a partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, to give us the positive affirmations. And what I was conveying is that I didn't know how to do that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what I'm inferring when we have a successful transaction in life, whether it be a business transaction or a personal transaction through connections, through connecting with others, to take the time afterwards, every time, and process the experience, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and acknowledge what the affirmations, what you learned about the experience. And if you achieve something, to acknowledge that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So many of us as adults, though, we're still waiting for mommy or daddy who didn't give us that good job, son, at the end of the baseball game. We're waiting for that daddy to show up or mom to show up and still tell us how good we are.
Jay, with that, not to interrupt, but what popped into my head is I do, and we probably, Josh, all of us here. I mean, I could tell you all the people who look at what I do and see it, and I do. Oh man, that's amazing, Jeff. You are so talented, and to me, it's at times, and it's shifting. It's almost like I'm listening to somebody speak a foreign language because I've never heard that in my life. Like, wow, you're so talented and gifted, and look at the work you've done. It's amazing. And I sit there, and they could be speaking Portuguese at times because I've never heard that. And then I'm trying to hear it and take it in, and at times I don't even know what I'm taking in because it's such a foreign thing to me, and I'm learning to hear that, and at times go, really? You really think that's good? So, I'm going to be 63 years old, and that still is a challenge in my life.
I'll be honest with you guys, Jeff. I feel you, man. This year is going to be our 13th year on Shark Tank, and I took over the department season 3. So the first 2 years there was another art director, and then since then, for now 11 years, it's been me. And the first 3 or 4 years, I was stuck in an imposter syndrome world and didn't think I had earned it or deserved it, and was just trying to prove my worth to everyone, right? And this year, myself and my co-art director, Melissa, fought for raises. We fought for an extra man on our team. We fought for what we deserved. And it was, I would say this year, the 13th year on Shark Tank, was the first year that I didn't care. It wasn't about proving myself. It wasn't about fighting it was just so matter of fact. It was the easiest meeting I've ever had. In the past, I would have dwelled for days and been afraid I was asking for too much, too little. My whole brain would have been consumed with this meeting for weeks beforehand. And yes, Melissa and I were careful on our ask, and we didn't want to offend them, but we wanted to fight for what was right for us. And it didn't feel like a fight at all. We jumped on the Zoom call, and it was just very matter of fact. It was like, look, this is what we deserve. This is why. And this is where we need to be. And we think it's fair for you. We think it's fair for us. Boom. And they were like, okay. It was the easiest meeting I've ever had because we didn't dwell. We didn't create these stories in our heads, or we weren't trying to prove our worth or anything. We just knew. It was just a knowing. And when you go in with a knowing, it's a whole different ballgame.
It's when we know our talents, gifts, and abilities, when we know our value, and then we know the value that we're adding to this project, or in your case, just this show.
Yeah.
And we're in that adult space of knowing and honoring and valuing ourselves. There's no fight.
No.
What we're asking for, we know that we deserve it based upon the value that we are adding to the project or the photo shoot or whatever that is. It's what we think is going to be a fight is that we're still trying to prove who we are to ourselves. So I'm going to have to fight them. It's going to be a fight.
To prove to me.
It's going to be a fight, but the fight is in here. It's not with them. Because then we go, like you said, I'll go and I'll ask them for it. And, oh, wow. They gave it to us. There was no fight. Yeah. Because we were just asking based upon that energetic resonance of abundance that we have inside of us, that all of us want to get to that place.
Totally. It's a believing. It's a knowing.
Yeah. I want to switch gears, guys. You guys have really hit a home run tonight. Fasano, you just knocked it out of the ballpark. And I am proud of you, son.
Okay, thank you, Jay. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to take 2 minutes to receive that.
All right. While you're receiving that, I want to switch gears here. I want to share a story that happened just earlier today in my own life. You guys all know one of my sons has got long haulers, which is long-term medical conditions from COVID, and he's done really well. It's been almost 10 months. He's done really well managing his mental health, even though he's got the neurological health is what's been impacted. But the last week, he got caught up in fear of employment because he hasn't been well enough to work. And he got spun out in the last 4 or 5 days. And finally, we had probably the healthiest conversation today. And I reminded him, because what he was doing was he was projecting out the future when unemployment runs out, and he's gonna either have to go back to work, which he doesn't know if he's gonna be well enough, or have to face whatever that looks like. And what he'd spent the week doing was going out, hustling, and putting his resume out and landing almost every place he stopped. They hired him on a spot.
Wow.
But he was struggling with an inner conflict because he'd come home at night from being on the road, wiped out, fatigue, dizziness, brain fog, with the 3 conditions he's been dealing with for 9-10 months now. And I reminded him of a few things. One of them was, and I'm sharing this story because we all go through this, where if we're not here, we're there. We're future tripping. We're projecting out what our life can look like in 3 months from now. And we lose consciousness and mindfulness of what we have in this moment. And I basically said, in this moment, are you okay? Do you have your basic survival needs being met? Do you have a bed to sleep in? Yes. Do you have enough money to buy food for yourself? Yes. Do you have health care to continue to examine how to break through and break free of these medical conditions post-COVID? He said yes. I said, so right now you're okay. Right now, you're more than okay. And to project out where you're going to be in September, a lot can change between now and then. Your brain can come back between now and then. I know that job in New York that you left when it got shut down, it's waiting for you. So that's enough that you'll have options. You don't need to go there now. But aren't there a few things in your life in this moment, even as you're struggling, that you can be grateful for? And he said to me, you know what, Dad, you're absolutely right. He said, totally, I agree. And I said, so now do you know what you know what you need to do? And he said, yeah, I do. And he went and declined.
Nice.
He went and got hold of all of the places that hired him, and he declined them all. He said, for now, it's not a good fit for now. And up until that moment, he was just in a total spin. He's 27 years old. But I've been in that spin at 37, and I've been in that spin at 47. And for him, it really had less to do with the job and more about he was just projecting out how he's going to be in the future.
Yeah.
And I said, the future is today. Stay
What you reminded him of, Jay, was what is in his life and what is most important in his life right now.
Right now is all he has. Right now, his older brother opened up his home and said, you could stay as long as you need to stay.
Nice.
And another brother gave him a car to use. And he's got so much right in front of him. Yet in a moment when he went to the future, he lost track of all that is right here, right now.
Yep.
And I said to Mary, I said, my heart breaks for him because I feel his fear. I feel his pain. I feel his future trip. I was there. We've all been there. But what he has today is the ability to be open most days to hear it coming from me. To bring him back into what's truly important. It's simple, not easy. Because the truth is we don't know. We don't know if it's going to dissolve. And a lot of that has to do with the mindset too. So in any event, we are coming up on the hour, guys.
That was a great tool. I want to honor that for a second too. And because that's something I used to consciously use when I started studying the brain, is that the brain's actually a really bad judge of severity of things. Everything feels like life or death. And when the brain can't figure something out, it feels like you're being chased by a tiger. The brain doesn't know these outside threats, whether it's an actual life and death when we get caught in these fear cycles, it's as real to the brain as if it's happening right now. And so a tool I used to consciously do was I would, in a peak state when I was triggered or just being, the ship was totally taken out by a tsunami and something big had rolled through my life, I'd stop and I'd say, am I being chased by a tiger right now? No. In this moment, am I safe? Are all my needs met? Do I have food? Do I have water? Do I have shelter? And the answer was always yes. And then I'd say, so therefore, I'm okay. I'm okay in this moment. And sometimes one time I bombed a pitch. I think I talked about it a year ago, but I bombed a huge pitch at Stanford in front of a whole bunch of tech guys. And completely tanked it in front of an entire room. And I left that so triggered that I had to the ride back to my sister's in Oakland, where I was crashing for the night. I had to say that probably 15 times in a row. And I would get myself calmed down. I'd feel better. The brain would jump back into those fears and that intense, triggering of me being a failure in front of all those people. And I'd remind myself, am I okay in this moment? Therefore, if I'm not, and my life is not in danger, I'm okay. And I'm okay in this moment. And I had to say it over and over, but it's a conscious tool we can use because it's just what the brain does.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So beautiful, Jay. You nailed it. We are okay most of the time. We're not.
When we're there, though,
Josh,
when we're there, I think what it's about is that, you've heard me say this before. We can't live in faith and fear in the same breath. And that for me was the game changer in my healing journey that started back in 2015. I didn't have faith in my life. I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God. From the time I was 14, I left my faith. And in 15, I had a number of spiritual awakenings, rapid fire. And I began to understand the power of living in faith. And just what I lacked too, not only faith, was I lacked trust. Now, like Mary reminded me today, we were on an afternoon hike. We hiked down to the creek and hammocked out for a little bit and just chilled. And she said, one thing is, like, a lot of people hear faith and they have this vision of someone who's maybe like a Bible, carries a Bible, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's different types of faith. There's religious faith, there's spiritual faith, and everything in between. And I'm more on a spiritual faith journey in my life, and I'm at total peace with that. For me, what I lacked when I was always in the future trip, which is where ego wants to take us, because ego wants to protect us from the future what ifs and failure. When I'm there and I'm not here, it's because I'm in fear and I'm not in faith. So this is a major power tool in my life today. As soon as I have awareness that my thoughts have spun out, like happened to my son today and last night, and I'm able to bring myself back in that moment and go, where am I? I'm not here. I'm in the future. I then get to practice faith over fear. And I just say that mantra until that in that moment, I can shift back into the moment. Kind of like you created that mantra for yourself, Josh, when you were driving back to your sister's place after you bombed that presentation. Like in that moment, I'm okay. In that moment, I'm okay. All my needs are met. All my needs are met. And believe me, when I had brain fog and fatigue for 17 months post anesthesia back in 15, I didn't know if I'd ever be able to work again. I didn't know if I'd be able to do anything other than get one thing done in a day again. But 99% of that time, I lived in faith and not fear. I lived in trust that I was right where I was at because there were lessons that I needed to learn from that experience and learn about myself.
Yeah.
And it was the game changer. So as we approach coming up on the hour in just about 7 minutes, this is a time of the show where we call it magical and musical chairs. I give each one of you gentlemen 2 to 3 minutes to answer a question and that I'm going to propose to you this evening, and then close us out with your own either power tool or closing thoughts based on the question I ask. And again, Evis Heath, we missed you this evening. Hope you have enjoyed your time. I know you have been very present for your sister in Melbourne, and we look forward to having you back next Friday evening on Real Men Real Talk Live. But in this moment, Josh, I'm going to drop you since Jeff opened us up and warmed us up. I'm going to put you in a hot seat right now. So here's your question, Josh. Give me one moment here to come up with the one that feels right. Okay, Josh. What can be a positive outcome from a negative situation?
Oh man.
Now I'm going to invite you to take a moment here and just take a nice deep breath, Josh. Join me in a breath moment here.
Well,
The breath gives you a moment to come back to center and really go in deep and answer this question from your heart or soul space, not from your head space. That's my invite. I challenge you. I dare you. I'll repeat the question. What can be a positive outcome from a negative situation?
this is an easy answer. It's probably one of my biggest lessons in life. The culmination of my 30s that I don't remember, and all of those friends that I missed experiences with, and all of that life that I missed was to build a company, to build a startup. And at the end of my 30s, that startup crashed. I got nothing from it. I missed my 30s, and I was left with a mountain of debt, which has taken me 5 years to pay back, and still getting some IRS letters today. And it took me 2 years to realize the gold in that experience. It was tough because as I got further and further exposed financially throughout my 30s, and I put more into the company, and I leveraged more credit cards, and took mortgages out on cars and things like that, second loans out on cars. And as I got further exposed, I kept checking into the universe because I'm a feeler, and I was always sort of mildly aware before, not awake like I am now. And this experience woke me up, and it was my downfall, or my breakdown, that led to my breakthrough. But as I got further exposed in financially in my 30s, I kept asking God and the universe, is this right? Should I keep going? And it felt right. So when it all imploded and blew up at the end, I was very bitter and angry at God and the universe. And I turned my back on faith and any sort of religion. And because I blamed them. I said, it felt right. Why did it feel right to go through this horrible experience that has left a wake of destruction for even the last 5 years? But it was about 2 years in, and I was on the phone with my mom, and I believe I've explained this once in the past on a show as well. But it so illustrates this point, I have to bring it up again. I was in that poor me moment with my mom, talking to her and saying, why did it have to be this way? Why did it have to be so hard? Why did the company have to crash? It was a good idea. In fact, 4 other businesses have done that idea since. So it wasn't like it was the wrong idea. Why did it have to happen? Why did it have to go down this way? And then it hit me. And I broke down and started crying on the phone with my mom, because the beauty of this grand lesson and everything that I had to go through, I had to go through all of that, and the business crash and the disappointment and the overworking and the missing all of the friends things and all of that. And then the crash, and then the deep financial ruin afterwards, and all the paying back debt and living small. I had to go through all of that to lead me to my passion, which is teaching, coaching other people. And no one's going to listen to a guy who had it easy and was some trust fund kid and wrote a book and he thought he figured out life. I had to go through the pain and the hardship and the near suicide and all of that to understand what this life experience is like, the highs and the lows. And so my breakdown was my realization of my passion and my truth and what I'm truly here. I wasn't a startup owner. I'm a teacher. And so it had to happen that way. And in that moment that I realized the beauty of that whole big 10-year lesson. And when I started crying, all the bad feelings in that moment melted away. Any regret, any pain, I was just awash with gratitude, deep, 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 genuine gratitude that it all turned out the way it did. And that I was led to where I needed to be.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And that's
how does it
the
feel
lesson
in this moment, Josh? How does it feel in this moment to hear your voice speak those words? Are you at peace with it today?
1,000%.
Okay.
I thought there's not a twinge of regret, of anger, bitterness. It all had to happen. And it's beautiful. And when I was finally, it's so funny. It's like the universe is just sort of this all-knowing, right? And these big things are at work without us. And I feel like I got this little window into the genius of the grand plan. And it was like, that was just enough to make a decade of pain worth it.
Beautiful.
And helping one person, if I hear back from somebody that my book helped them or my course helped them, like that just makes it, that's just icing on the cake. The lesson for me was enough, but now that I'm living in my passion and helping other people, man, that's like the cherry, the sprinkles, and all the other wonderfulness on top. So,
okay, beautiful. Welcome back, Josh Richer.
Good to be here.
Jeff Asano, I'm going to hit you with a question for you. You have shared with such truth and such honesty and vulnerability for over a year now how the relationship with your dad and his inability to convey and communicate how beautiful of a son you were impacted your adult life and to a degree held you in shackles, held you in bondage, inner bondage, that is. I'm going to invite you to take a nice deep breath after I ask you your question and just pause and then go deep within. What is it going to take for you, Jeff, to finally free yourself from all that you lacked in receiving from your dad? What is it going to take for you to be free so that you could love yourself without self-doubt, without self-deprecation, without accepting unacceptable behavior from other people anymore in your life, and come home? And what can we do to help you get there?
The first thing that comes to me is what I need to do more of is nurturing myself and stop beating myself up over things. It's time to nurture that wounded little kid inside of me who continually thinks he needs to prove himself to others, that continually thinks he needs to take care of others so they will love him. And nurture that part of me that is releasing, that is shifting, that is honoring and valuing myself more than I ever have in my life. As I've asked other people, it's a process for me still. And it's simply just allowing myself to move through this process of growth. That it's funny, Jay, you said that it was literally an hour before my father took his last breath that I was there, and I was there for that. I helped my father transition for 2 weeks, nurturing him along the way. And literally, it was my father's fear of intimacy that he couldn't say, I love you.
Yeah.
You're wonderful. You're fantastic. An hour before my father passed, he looked up at me and said, you're special. And I was 47 years old. My father passed when I was 47. And I looked at him and I said, thank you for that. What I realized after that, a while after that, is that my father knew in that moment that he was going. He was leaving this earth plane. So he didn't have to, when he opened that doorway to intimacy, he knew he didn't have to be there on the other side of that doorway to have that exchange of intimacy. And in that moment, when he said, those eyes, he goes, you're special. And I went, thanks, Dad. You are special. You're special. That was his way of saying, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting now that I'm coming into that place of really valuing my worth, valuing who I am, valuing what I give, valuing my talents, gifts, and abilities more than I ever have in my life. And I've accomplished a lot. So it's really about that. What I need to practice is nurturing when that stuff comes up, nurturing when that, like I said at the beginning of the show, that illusion of emptiness inside of me pops up. To me, the biggest tool that we could use, and the biggest tool that I'm using right now, is bringing, when all of this stuff comes up, and it still does, and I've mentioned many times in the show, I could go, it doesn't matter who I'm photographing or what I'm doing, that not good enough still pops up. Now, the tool that I use, that I've been learning to use, is closing my eyes, taking a moment, and differentiating from where I am right now as the adult 62-year-old Jeff, and then all of what's coming up, which is really the wounding of the child, and then bringing that child in and nurturing that child from that place. So then I can move through those moments that come up of looking at what isn't in my life, looking at what I think I haven't accomplished yet, allowing my not good enough to override everything. And the only way that I'll be loved is if I'm taking care of another, which is really about taking care of mom. So all of it is really about bringing that wounded child in and nurturing through it, feeling my feelings about feeling, but also knowing that in the here and now, I'm the adult Jeff. Okay, let's bring in that wounded child, and that wounded child is no longer going to run my life.
Raise your arms in the air, Jeff Fasano. And raise your arms in the air. Please follow me.
Okay.
And say this word. Freedom.
Freedom.
Say it one more time, brother.
Freedom.
Freedom. That's what this feels like for me right now. How do you feel right now, Jeff?
Peaceful. Peaceful. That's exactly how I feel right now. Peaceful.
Beautiful. I want to post up here. Mary Kelly says, you no longer need to take care of mom or any other woman, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
This is your time. This is your time. That doesn't mean that we can't be available. It just means that our number one priority has to be taking care of us and taking care of that little boy, Jeffrey, inside of you that still wants to go out in that ball field and knock a ball out of the park. And you know what? Maybe that's something when you come into LA in a month or so. I don't own a baseball bat, and I don't anymore. And I don't have my baseball mitt. And I don't have my glove anymore. Josh, maybe you could find something on Shark Tank set or in a container and get your hands on a baseball bat, baseball, maybe a couple of mitts. And the three of us, let's go out and find a field and let's play catch and let's hit a couple of balls out. Let's have some fun together. I'm serious here, guys.
Hey, I still have my glove that I used when I played in college, and I've got a couple of bats here.
All right. Well, but the thing though is it's gonna cost you money to bring it on a plane. So unless you have a way to make that happen, I'll let you and Josh figure that out. Yeah. But I have every intention of doing that and getting out and playing a round of 1 or 2 innings with you guys and making our own bases, and let's just go play and maybe Josh or Jeff, if you get a couple of guys together, let's have some fun. Let's do this. Or and Jeff, because you deserve this, man.
or just simply go to a batting cage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've done that. There's plenty of batting cages in Southern California.
All right. Well, there's a few out there. All right, gentlemen. So it's my turn. It's my time to get hit with a hard question. I'm gonna flip spots, and I'm gonna let you guys do rock, paper, scissors, and decide who wants to hit me hard with a good, solid question that's gonna challenge me, make me go deep.
I've got it.
Okay. Let's hear it.
It's similar to the question you asked Josh, but it's a little different. And this is a question that I ask myself, and from all your incredible experiences, Jay, the quote unquote failures, because I don't think there's any failures in life. It all is as it is. Everything that you've done up until this point, all the failures, all the wonderful aspects of everything. And you look at where you were in your deepest shadow in your life. What was your greatest lesson in life? What was your greatest lesson about you? And how did all of that shift and change you in that moment? So it's 3 questions, I guess.
I think I got at least 2 of them. That's a challenging question because there's so many things that come to mind. But I said this before. I think one of the lights that came on for me was before I even hit my rock bottom. I had to go a little lower, but I was in rehab treatment for one of my addictions. And what came up over that 5-month period was that a new awareness I never had before was that I did matter. I didn't come first and I didn't come second in my life. I came at the bottom. And I don't know if that was fourth, fifth, sixth, or 10th. But I didn't know how to take care of myself. And I didn't know that I was important enough to take care of myself. I had my own stories around that. But I do want to expand upon this for our viewers and listeners to share my perspective and break it down a little bit further. For those that think they are too old to heal, for those that think they are too much has happened, it's never too late.
Mm-mm.
It's never too late to wake up. It's never too late to take action to improve how you feel about yourself and how to improve and attract healthier relationships in your life. The only thing blocking you is you. The only thing blocking you is your own ego. But it's possible, because if this old dog at age 54, hours from death, can show up and grow up and wake up, you can do it too. What was the other question, Jeff?
What was, I don't really remember. What is the biggest lesson that you learned that shifted you into a higher knowingness of who you are?
The A was that I do matter. That was the foundation for the pathway to healing. But what I've also learned deeper into the healing journey years later is that damaged relationships can be repaired. They can change. Now, it doesn't mean that we compromise our integrity, but they can be repaired and they can become healthier. The gateway to that is forgiveness. First of ourselves, then of those that had hurt us to some extent. Mother's Day just passed. And I had the opportunity to speak with my mom on a video call very late. It was a busy day for both of us. And it wasn't until almost after 11 o'clock here, it was after midnight back in the East. And we connected for over, I don't know, maybe it was an hour. It doesn't matter. The time didn't matter. It was the best Mother's Day I ever had in my life. Because all of the old residual hurt and pain and anger and resentment, plus the guilt and the shame and everything that went in that package deal of a wounded relationship between a mother and a son, was no longer. I was able to see my mom. I was able to understand my mom. I was able to feel my mom. I was able to honor my mom. I was able to respect my mom. And I was able to love my mom in that moment. If I hadn't done the work to dissolve my addictions, to face my shadows, to learn how to like myself and eventually fall in love, it wouldn't have happened in this lifetime. So I think for me, that is the greatest lesson, is that when we invest in ourselves and we do whatever it takes to break free of the shackles and bondage that held us within, from all the old downloads and tapes at home, the downloads and tapes from school, the downloads and tapes from the playground, the downloads and tapes from social media, from media, from movies, the downloads from church and synagogue, and remove them all and open up our heart, open up our soul to come home to our truth, to who we are, who we were born to be. Then, and only then, will we be free. I love you guys. I am so excited to spend time with you guys. Maybe we could get Ev to fly in. I don't know. It's possible. If we put it out in the universe, it's possible.
Then we could find a little studio and do the show from a studio.
Yeah, that would be
next
cool.
to each other. How amazing would that be?
That'll be cool. I want to take a moment here before we put a pretty bow in the show and call it a wrap. I want to thank our viewers and listeners that came in right on time. Whether it be live streaming or on a replay, you showed up. We appreciate you. Please help us grow our broadcast, our podcast organically by sharing it with your friends and family. If you got a friend or family member or even a boss or an acquaintance that's struggling, that's just surviving right now, share the link, whether it be from Facebook. If they're not on Facebook, you can find us on our YouTube channel. Just search Real Men Real Talk Live, and you can pick up our playlist. One of the links is playlist. It's got all the shows in order by the date and topic. I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening, Friday evening in the U.S., Saturday overseas in Europe and beyond. I wish for you all to have a beautiful weekend. If you are in recovery from some type of surgery or some type of emotional opportunity in this moment, we are here for you. We love you. And you are going to be okay. And with that, we'll catch you next time on Real Men We'll Talk Live. Peace out. Blessings.